In my opinion, the basic problem is funding, and the problem we have with funding is that we have a basic structural problem with the way this community is funded and where the money goes. And I think that if we take a strong, hard look at how to reorganize our city to make it more efficient and bring the money available back to the community, we can invest it in the arts. And I don't believe we do that as effectively as we possibly could, because I just think our spending priorities are in the wrong places. I would go back to the community. There's technology. We live in the 21st century. There's technologies available to us that make participation by the community an interactive exercise that leads us to consensus, as opposed to continuously being divisive about, well, my project's more important than yours, etc. I think we could work together as a community to do a much better job of moving our city forward in the arts and in many, many other aspects of our community. Thank you very much.
So thank you. The City of New Westminster has an incredibly strong arts and cultural community, and I think over the next few years we have some tremendous opportunities to see that thrive even more. In my opinion, over the next term of City Council, there's two important priorities that I think are critically important. The first one is completing and implementing our art strategy. The city has been working over the past year on our art strategy and continues to work on that and continues to engage with the arts community. To me, it's so important that we get this strategy right and that we immediately then go from completing the art strategy to actually working on implementing the actions in them. The second priority for me is actually seeing what we can do to better maximize the community spaces and community amenities designed for the arts, whether that be the Anvil Center or the recently renovated library, or when the city takes over the Massey Theater. These are critically important arts facilities in our community, but I like to think of it as the city has built a blank canvas, and that's an important first step, but a blank canvas is not a masterpiece. We need to make sure that we are engaging the arts community. We need to make sure we're engaging groups like the Massey Theater and other organizations in our community to make sure that we take those wonderful community assets and turn them into true masterpieces in our community.
Thank you. Yeah, they're all wonderful comments. To me, for the city's role, it's communication with the stakeholders. The art community is key. You know what you would like to see, and I think budget, like the city needs to be better with the budget with the art community, and I also think that we need to be promoting the art community more. We have a lot of amenities that we could be using to our maximum. We have a beautiful outdoor theater here, which I would love to see used more. And Massey Theater is not just used for the public, but it's also used for our education. We have our schools that use it for band performances, dance performances, and we need to be doing this more, not just sharing it with the community, but also our schools. So to me, city is communication and providing a decent budget for our community to grow more.
Moving right into question 2. This has grown over the past 4 years. However, support for grants, community access, and key partnerships has not changed in at least a decade. Question: do you support the continued growth of city programs, or would you invest more in activating community capacity, and why? And we'll begin with Council candidates again, and trying to come up with an interesting way to zigzag through. We'll begin with Danny, and we'll come this way, and then we'll go to Chino and come back to Danny.
Sure. Well, kind of like what I said in my last statement, I don't want to take away from anything that's already been built or is in the process of being built, but I would like to see more of a hands-on grassroots level where we get small groups together, where we're meeting, exploring different art, and I think it's perfectly fine for the city to spend money on art supplies, be it paint or clay or food for a community meal. I don't want to take away from anything, like I said, anything that's being already built, but I feel that by going to the large scale, we're perhaps missing something on the smaller scale as well.
Thanks. Thank you very much. One of the things when we look at art and art capacity is when we businesses. Small businesses, the tax rate is extremely high now. Every time a 1% goes up for us, it goes up 10 for industry, which we're trying to keep in the city. And so I like to find a more creative solution where having the art groups bring creative ideas to us. So if we're supplying facilities and places to connect, I would like to see some really creative ideas. And so spending more money on infrastructure, I think we let the developers do that as an amenity. But I really want to see more input from the arts community and some ideas. I like the spaces that are available and using on the waterfront and playing the performances out here. But we can do more than that. We can do it in every park. We can put little stages up and do events and little pocket events in every park. The ideas are endless. It's up to the arts community to bring them to us, and we can facilitate those.
Well, there's so much talk about art today, and definitely that's why we're here, and definitely we would like to see it continue. We would like to see its growth. As we said earlier, everyone knows at the beginning, it's important for our everyday life. I think there was some research in London that said, of course, that it really helps with cognitive development in children. And we do art therapy, so definitely we want to see it grow, especially as how. Something was mentioned earlier that I'd like to build on for many years ago. I did a strategic plan for the city of Vancouver where we talked about developing housing for artists because we could afford to live anywhere. This was about 10 years ago. So that is a concern. But in terms of our venues and leveraging what we have, I think that's absolutely important. We do have quite a bit right now. We have a lot of space. But again, we need to have that visibility going so that we can absolutely promote the artists, support them, have them show that we know what was out there. I think the cultural crawl that happens is absolutely fantastic because then you get to connect, you get to see people. I myself do fiber art, so it's nice to go out there and see other people doing that. So it's really important to keep that growth going. So how that happens is a conversation that the city and the councillors will lead with the artist community. Again, that word partnership register, nothing can happen without having that partnership, that input on how you let the city go forward. Thank you very much.
So it is true that the civic investment in the arts has grown over the past several years. I'm happy to say that a couple of years ago, Council approved a motion to extend one-year terms for some of our partners in the arts to three-year terms. I would actually like to hear back from those communities and those partners as to whether that works for them. Does that help them leverage funds from other levels of government? Does it need to be longer? Does it need to be shorter? So I think we need to have those conversations around grants and whether what we've set up is actually working. Do you want to support continued growth of city programs? If I'm reading this correctly, I do not. I would like the arts community to be doing and facilitating and programming a lot of our city programs. Would I like the city to support those? Absolutely. I think it needs to be some form of a partnership, and I'm not sure what the community wants, exactly how they see that working. But I would like us to give that opportunity over to the community because they know their business. The other thing that we haven't mentioned that much this evening is the school district. And we have not had as good a relationship with the school district around the arts as we should have. And I think it's time for us to have that conversation in a very serious way. Schools are often, arts in the schools are cut back in all kinds of ways. And there are ways that the city can contribute and be a better partner to our school district. So I would like us to have that conversation, including that in the partnership conversations that we need to be having. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it might be arguable that some of the funding pockets haven't changed in the last 10 years. I know that a lot is narrowly, but I won't go into that. I think that it really is very important to support the community in doing their own programming with the support of the local government. I think that it strengthens our community. It sparks the conversation and the imagination of people. I think it's important to use that money from the local government as seed money, as to leverage other projects. Something in a model of community economic development, where you can just, I won't go into that right now either. So support capacity building and really sparking the economies of scale that can happen here in the city. I've talked a lot about placemaking and belonging, and that's more pointing to bridging the divides and looking at the other. And one of the examples of that I'd like to touch on is just my recent project using some funding through Vancouver Foundation and the U.S. Small Grants Program, thank you, to create a community garden, Argyle Street Community Garden, which is serving the Thornbridge residents and many of the communities. And so what we've discovered is that even though I've lived there for over 30 years, there are people in that back lane who have lived there for 17 and 25. I've met over 11 ethnicities just through the course of this project, and it's been absolutely beautiful. And now we're looking at creating, we've got this vision to have Argyle Street Marketplace, not just one little community garden. So that is taking it a step further and making Glenbrook North, where I am, a remarkable neighborhood possible for everyone.
I believe that city programs should support, enhance, and supplement arts programs, not be in direct competition with them. I've already discussed about grants, and that I think that needs to be looked at and reworked. In-kind services is a big one. It's very difficult to put on a lot of events without in-kind services, from police to fire to blocking off streets and things like that. And from what I've heard is that in the future that's something that will be passed on to some nonprofits to do themselves, which makes it quite impossible to put on events. I think also when planning for new amenities in parks, we need to look more at the big picture. For example, we've been trying to get festivals and rides back for Easter in the Park, for Kayak Week, and unfortunately there's plumbing that runs underground, so it won't support the waste. So there's so many things that people want to do, but it's made impossible by the venue, and often I personally feel like I'm hitting my head against the wall. So hopefully that's something that can be made to be easier. I think that our theaters sitting empty could be better utilized. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations that I feel, why not, if they can cover, say, the security person that's there, the lighting person. I would prefer to have a theater being used as opposed to remaining empty. Recovery Day BC, I don't know if you went to that, that was a huge success. US is one of the capitals for recovery. Recovery and art goes, I think, well together. My daughter went to art therapy for counseling, and it was wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you. I definitely feel very strongly in this that more effort should be placed in activating the community capacity. There are wonderful artists in the city who haven't been tapped into enough, and there are lots of residents, as you can see here, who really appreciate the arts. And they need to collaborate and engage in the arts and culture scene here. The attendance at art functions, the festivals, the displays have been huge. So if we have that kind of support, why don't we bring that voice into making the decisions around what the community should be doing? And I was very happy to see the word partnership included in the art strategy. It speaks to a willingness to work with people, but my only caution would be is what does that partnership look like? Because collaboration is the best form of partnership. Cooperation and coordination is absolutely not enough. If you want to have a sustainable partnership, it has to be through collaboration. This community is also very rich in diversity, and that is an area that has not been tapped and really needs. And again, I was very happy to see in the art strategy that a concerted effort is being made to reach the diverse community that we have. And the last is something somebody else has touched upon, is bringing more attention to how we collaborate with the schools and bring the children into the fold, because these are the future enthusiasts of the arts, and we need to have their input into the work that the Arts Council or the Arts Commission is looking into. Thank you.
So I will try to respond very quickly just to the question itself. It asks here, do you support the continued growth of city programs, or would you invest more in activating community capacity? I can clearly tell you that I would not support additional growth of city programs, but would redirect those investments into the community. The question is why? And the answer is very simple. Because the arts community can do it better than the city can. And the arts community knows better what it needs than city council does. And I think it's very straightforward. It doesn't require a very complex answer. I've heard on the doorstep, and I've heard the community time after time, and I hadn't come to appreciate it until maybe the last few months, that I've heard about the arts community feeling in competition with City Hall. And it feels like it's competing with its own city government. And I think we have to rethink that. That's not how it should be. It should be, as Sheena said, more of a collaboration and more of a partnership than a competition. If we're into a competition, we're into the wrong game. I think that I've also heard around long-term funding, and while I applaud Councillor Trenemu for experimenting in the last few years with 3-year funding, I've yet to come across an arts group that says that they don't want 3-year funding. And I think to look at and ask for more studies and more review and say we need to talk about this, I think it's time for action. I think Council, after October 20th, has to move quickly and look at trying to get 3-year funding for our arts community. So I think it's time to move forward on that, and with the 30-second note, I'll turn it over. Thank you so much.
We just heard Dana talk about the question and the answers and things like that. And I have a little bit different view. I believe in a little bit of symmetry between the two, heading down a path together with the civic community. And I think the city government needs to be involved in both on that path to growth. And we have to have some form of growth in this environment that we have. It's wonderful. I think the city should be looking at inviting outside financial support, and I've heard the word leverage much tonight already, but I think it's about influencing that the groups that have the larger dollar value. I think it's about getting them involved in the programs and stuff like that, and using names. I think the city needs to also invite larger corporations to build some interesting film center hubs or some tech hubs or things along the lines that allow people to harness the passion they have for their gift inside. And so let's not be afraid to do a hard business with the corporations that are willing to put trucks back and forth across our city right now, and trains down there every day, and people that are selling things here. There's no reason that we can't be speaking to them about how to get involved in our community when they're here already. And the arts community is an important step, because a lot of people don't make much money in the arts community. They don't, and they have to have it. And then 30 seconds, that's it for me. Thanks.
I want to challenge a little bit some of what I've heard. Grants in the city have grown in the 4 years that I've been on council. Arts and culture grants have grown 25%, festival grants by 38%, and community partnership grants by 30%. That is an investment and a commitment we've made to supporting arts and culture in the community. I mean, you can talk about priorities. Priorities matter when you go to budget day and you decide that you're going to spend an extra $200,000 this year on supporting arts and culture in the community. I know when I'm going to go door knocking, I'm going to go at other candidates, and I think we're going to ask what I'm doing about reducing taxes or my priorities. And this council, I think, has demonstrated the last 4 years we are putting a priority into grants that help leverage community groups. And we're seeing the results now. We're seeing a lot of that. There's a lot going on in Westminster the last couple of years. That's something we're hearing a lot. There's so much going on in the city. And that's not our credit. We are providing extra funding for it, but it's the community groups who are running those things and making them happen. So providing extra grants has helped make community groups more successful. We also have allowed organizations to apply for 2 or 3 year grant funding or provide them the consistency they need in order to leverage senior grants or zero partnerships. We've allowed that to happen. Some people have taken it up, some people haven't. I'm happy we've done that. I think it's helped some organizations do better with money. There's a role for city programs. There is a role at the swim pool for competitive swimmers, and there's a role for teaching kids how to do basic swim lessons. We have had huge success with community programs in Century House, the Queensborough Community Center, at the library, teaching. There is a role for that type of programming, but there's also a role to support the community, providing different types of programming. I'm happy to look at how we deliver programming in the arts, but I don't think we can just dismiss all city programs as not valuable because they do provide an audience and provide a different audience. Thanks.
We're just going to insert Troy Hunter in next. Are you ready?
On the question of resources, what is first required is a good hard look at what is working and what is not. It's difficult for new candidates to have all the information because many of us are not engaged in the local art scene and are not necessarily privy to past council decisions. I would say though, for arts organizations that are dependent on municipal grants in order to survive, it is really difficult if funding hasn't been secured. On the other hand, if we activate our community resources and really get the people out to make and or consume art, whether it's at the theater, the movies, art galleries, and anywhere else the arts is available, then we begin to have a vibrant arts community. The question to me is a bit of a loaded one. Do you keep the status quo and continue to fund city programs, or do you activate community capacity, and why? Why I say it's loaded because it assumes that candidates such as myself know all of the ins and outs, all of the details of what programs the city funds, and even as to why it hasn't changed in 10 years. My job as a councillor is to learn what the concerns are of the residents and then make informed decisions going forward. In order to freshen up, we need to better inform each other as to what the community needs are. My heart tells me that activated community sounds a whole lot better than a stagnant 10-year-old approach that hasn't changed in a decade. But what does that mean is what I am concerned about. What I think it means could very well mean something different to other people. That is why we need information that helps us as elected decision makers to make sound decisions, and that is what I represent.
I still wish I made some videos. I would add to what Patrick said that the city has also created new grants with new funding in the areas of childcare, environment, and some other categories. And what that did was that took some of the competition out of the community grants and city partnership grants and allowed some of that to go to other places for specific purposes and free up some of the funding. But I would like to see one change that I think could make a big difference, and that change is to directly fund some of the groups that currently rely on grants and reapplying for grants every year. Sometimes it's been decades, and every year that grant wonders if that city council is going to give them the grant to do what we need. And I look at organizations like the Arts Council, like the Cat Shelter, the Royal City Humane Society, as another example, where they're providing effectively a city service that it would cost the city a lot more if it had to provide itself. It's a deal. And so we do have some other organizations in the city that get funded directly from the city, not necessarily through the grants process. And I think that's something we need to look at. We did that, and the existing grants suddenly become much more available to everybody else, and that allows new ideas and new people to come forward without more established groups having to feel threatened. And in a growing city with a growing population and the big ambitions that people have in the Midwest, I think that's entirely appropriate to make that change and free up some of the funding.
Thanks, everybody. Again, going last, you hear all these great ideas, and there's lots of good ideas and lots of thoughts. Again, not being on city council currently, I can tell you the stats of how much has been paid and how much more grants has been given out. And a lot of it sounds great. I'm not a politician at heart. I'm not here to be a politician. What I am here to be is when I get to council to sit there and make sure that we are actually putting into place all the great ideas we have. And the biggest one, seriously, is listening to the arts community. And at the end of the day, if the city can be humble, if our staff can have a culture change and be humble and listen openly and transparently to the arts community, we're going to be back to the same thing 4 years from now with a plan that's come back to you guys. It's not going to get sorted out, and we've wasted another 4 years. We need to be bold, we need to be visionary, we need to look at where we're going and how we're going to get there with you guys and the city there supporting it. Yes, I agree with Patrick, there are programs that the city does offer that we need, but there's a lot of programs if it's in competition or it's hampering the arts community. We need to be humble as a city, we need to take a step back and say, let's work with you and let's get to the goals that we all want to achieve. That's it. Thank you.
All of our council candidates, and now we'll move into the mayoral candidates. I'll just read the question one more time. Unfortunately, there is no creative way to do just 3 people. I've been thinking about it the last hour. No. Yeah, well, paper, scissors, perhaps. So I think we'll start with Nikki and move through to Mark. Once again, the question is, do you support the continued growth of city programs? Let me read the question again. Do you support the continued growth of city programs, or will you invest more in activating community capacity, and why?
Okay, if I am elected, I believe you guys, you're my boss. You know, and you guys have a huge input into this community, and you know what's best. I think as a city, we should be enhancing what you guys are doing and work together with you guys as a partnership, absolutely. And we should have more funding for this, because 10 years is a long time, and like we said, we see growth all over the place, and we are continuing to grow, and we have so much culture here. So we have so much more we could be doing and expanding this program. And I think it's important that we work with also not just you guys, but also schools and other small art communities as well in our city.
Mayor, the City of New Westminster has been working on our art strategy, and originally it was our intention to have that strategy completed this past spring. But when we started engaging in the arts community during the spring period, we started to hear that we hadn't got it right. And to me, I take great pride that Council actually heard that message and took a pause on the art strategy and said, it's critically important that we do get this right. One of the key messages that we heard through that process and the issues with the draft art strategy that we were working with was that it was too focused on what the city's role is with arts and culture and not enough discussion about what is the role of the arts and cultural community in New Westminster and what role do they have to play. So to me, I took to heart that message, and as we go forward in the next stages in developing the art strategy, I think there's got to be greater attention to how the arts and cultural community in New Westminster can better access the wonderful facilities that we have in our community, can better be involved in the decision-making processes that we have with the arts. That was an important message that I heard through the engagement process that we've done, and I took it to heart. And to me, I think that's going to be critically important for us and should be a priority of our attention moving forward.
So the question asks, activate the community or build programs. Programs have a tendency to suck more and more and more money away from the arts community instead of investing it in the arts community. And I don't believe that's the right way to go. I mentioned Heather Redford earlier. There was an opportunity in Vancouver for a senior member of the arts community to join the city who said, I want to apply for the job because first thing I'll do is fire them all, because we need to put that money into the arts community, not into jobs at City Hall. I think that's a critical mistake that many, many communities make. They take over with programs instead of using programs to leverage and grow the arts community. And that's where I want our city to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those answers. We'll now move into question 3, implementation. I know it is getting late, but I thank you all for being here on Tuesday and the background, and then we'll begin with council candidates. And I think I might have come up with a creative way, so we'll get through it. Listen to me before you go right after the person beside you.
Do we have to go after the video?
No, not this time. Okay. No, not this time. Start with the video. We can do that. Okay. The question 3, implementation. New Westminster is changing, and there are many emerging demands and opportunities for arts and culture development. The city has many mechanisms to guide engagement with the arts, including the Arts Commission, the Arts Strategy, the Public Art Policy, and the Arts and Culture Grants. The question is, how will you ensure that the city remains focused on and accountable to the goals and recommendations of the approved arts strategy? So, that's the question. We're going to go from table to table, starting at the edges, and we're going in the middle. So don't start right after the person after you, because I'll have to direct who's next, and I'll probably mess it up too. Okay, so Jean, please, you are first.
I'm just going to talk as loud as I can. I don't need my. This was the hardest part. Can you hear me? No. Okay, so this was a really hard question to ask, because you're asking how the city can be held accountable and just to ensure that the goals and strategies are carried out. You obviously need to have some kind of overseeing body such as the Arts Commission that will actually look to see how the goals are being executed. And when I saw the goals and the strategies, my goodness, there's a huge budget over the next 3 years. So this committee, this group, such as our council, has to really stay focused and engage every single strategy one by one and make sure that every single step is carried out and not miss, so that we are having a successful arts program at the end of it all. But this is not an easy question for a new candidate to answer. We have to be in the situation of having that have be accountable for that, but I really don't think that any council itself can be accountable. It has to be a body that includes the residents, the artists, and anybody else who's involved in the arts scene. Thank you.
discuss, modify, implement, and there you have it. We have lots of passionate volunteers that are willing to do the organization and tasks at no charge, as opposed to paying city officials or having to hire more city officials to get things done. And even better, let's allocate funds to the directors of those arts programs and invest in them to go back into our community what they do best.
On this one, I think it's actually not that difficult to you. We, as a council, if whoever's here is elected as a council, ultimately every 4 years there is an accountability. And you're here in this room tonight because this is an accountability session. You have the opportunity to hold those who were elected over the last 4 years accountable for not having an art strategy. You can hold them accountable for the fact that, as was indicated earlier, that funding has been frozen for essentially the last 10 years. It's your opportunity to keep people accountable. But it's actually not that difficult. I think I'm the CEO of a nonprofit society. My board asks me to develop a strategic plan. I have to report back to the board every 3 months on that strategic plan. I have to tell them what the status is on the goals, on the objectives, on all the issues and items that are in the strat plan. And if we're going offside or if I'm going behind or ahead, that's reported. We adjust the plan and we move forward. It's not that challenging, and I think we should and we could be doing that as a city council, but ultimately, the city council, the city staff, we would be accountable, and you have to hold us accountable, and not just every 4 years, but in council, every week, every couple of weeks when we meet, when you have the opportunity to come to make delegations, that's when you hold us accountable, but I don't think it's actually that challenging. I think we can use basic principles, a strategic plan, and making sure that that's kept on track. Thanks so much.
Thank you for everybody who's still here on this being late. So I first of all just acknowledge the efforts of the task force and the chair and the staff who put together the art strategy, because it is one comprehensive document, and I really appreciated reading through it, especially that in the end it actually has an implementation framework, not a plan yet, and we humbly have to get it correct, dealing with the community and having community input. The fact that there is an implementation framework is very important moving forward. And from my experience working with Simon Fraser University for 15 years and working in international development for 8 of those years, you know, there are measures and inputs, action implementation plans where we're looking at the inputs and the outputs. That's where the community comes in. We're looking at the goals and objectives. We have quarterly reporting and annual reviews, both financial and qualitative reviews. We can have reflective analysis monthly, and we're working with all the teams that are involved, including the community, and holding us accountable to that. And so that's what I promise the community that I would do with my background and experience in managing local and regional and international projects to scale, that this community will be a destination for the arts.
So how will I ensure that the city remains accountable and focused on strategy and emerging forward? Well, I think the basis of that comes from engaging with the stakeholders, right? I think there's a lot of people that don't have focus, and that takes a lot of people to get together and forming a council and talking to the Arts Council and the Commission and the general public is an important step. My personal thoughts are is that I have goals and desires to have and surround myself with art for the rest of my life. It's a release. People need to stay engaged and make sure that the strategy moves forward and the strategy gets amended, because as we've heard tonight, it's not working, and the general public is talking about it. So I'd like to see that some targets get set for that and get adhered to. I think the other part about it is that, as Daniel said, that we all have in business, we all have targets and we all have reports that we have to report, and we have to meet those. And it's important to be accountable with those targets and strategies along the path.
debate, because it says here that this is not run as a candidate debate, even though it's killing me not to debate some of the things I've heard. So, I'm really excited about, we have an art strategy that I feel very confident that the community is going to appreciate. It's an amazing document, and I think the task force members are feeling very good about the work we've done. We have a public art policy that is about to be completed to lead us into the future. There's a lot of direction that's going to be given to the city from the community as to where we're going to go next. As to who is going to police that work, I want it to be the community. I want them to tell us, yeah, you're doing it, or no, you're not. I think the Arts Commission has a very important role in facilitating discussions with the community and with the Arts Council as to, are we hitting the mark? Are we getting the things done that we said we'd do? Of course, council has to approve things when it comes to budget. We know that, but the community needs to tell us if it's happening, and I think that that's a very important thing that we need to not miss. If we're doing shameless plugs, I did publish an arts platform that is on my website. Please have a look at it. There's some really exciting things in there that I would like to see happen. Thank you. marytrinity.ca, and thank you again for all coming out tonight. And please go out and vote on the 20th, whoever you vote for. It's really important that you get out to vote and you take your neighbor and your family with you. Thank you.
Accountability is about transparency and reporting. I am a big fan of us talking about our successes and talking about our failures. That's why I write every week after a council meeting what we decided and what the successes and what the challenges we face that week are. I think that the only way we can be accountable is by creating, having a strategy that includes measurables, metrics that we can look at the end of it, the community can look at it and say you're either achieving or you're not achieving. I love that Metro Vancouver has some beautiful tools for their sustainability plans, which are dashboard type things they have on their websites. You can go back, not have to wait for an annual report to come out. You can actually see how progress is happening as it's happening. And I want to say, we need clear transparency and accountability, because I don't want people saying silly things like we froze arts funding for 10 years. That's simply not true. Our arts funding has gone up every year that I've been on this term. Every year that I've been on this council. And if we need to report that something, that people aren't hearing that concerns me, because that means we're not being accountable and we're not being transparent about what we're doing. So I think we are transparent. I think that maybe we make people dig too much for data. So the art strategy has to include easy to understand, easy to read metrics, so we know we're measuring our success and we know what our challenges are. I mean, we've got a lot to do in the city. We've got, we are going to have, 3 theaters the city is going to. We have 2 galleries with very different operational models and very different purposes. We have a bunch of programs going on in the city, and I think that it's really important that the art strategy gives us the measurables that we know that we're doing things correctly, that we're actually, that the implementation of the programs is actually working for the ways that the art strategy wants it to happen. Thank you.
I was extremely pleased to see the last question has to do with implementation. Because as a consultant who leads organizations to strategic plans, it's always really good to sit down and design these plans that nobody, and when I come to, so who's going to do what, when, and where, I always make them grown. Because if things are not implemented effectively, and there's some keeper of the plan, it doesn't work. So I'm really, really pleased to see this question. Again, I go back to the partnership and the collaboration. My master's thesis was on collaboration, and I was very clear in that thesis to make sure that I said collaboration and cooperation are 2 totally different things. I was really clear about that, because the only way that you can tell City Hall, tell us, should I get there, how we are really doing and how the plan is being unfolding is if we work collaboratively together. I would echo something that Mary just said. One of the things that the city is very good at doing is actually having advisory committees. I strongly recommend after the vote, after you've gone out and voted, first of all, after you've voted, to make sure that you apply to sit on these committees so that you can actually give some direction on how things, how your business, you know what you're doing, you know a bit better than I do, how that should be going. Definitely the Arts Strategy and the Arts Commission should be the one to manage this, because you know what kind of art you can do. We can only, if I get there, we can only talk about budgets, but you definitely have to come forward and say, well, this is working well for you. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for staying.
Now we hear from Troy. Just go back and forth. He's technically sitting between you two.
On this last question about implementation, about the changing face of New Westminster, grants, opportunities, arts, policy development, etc., and how the city will remain focused on and accountable to goals and recommendations of the approved art strategy. What I have to say is that I've had a look at the executive summary. I don't know the goals and recommendations of the approved art strategy. This is something I will become familiar with, and as council goes forward making decisions, we do need to look at those plans that have been approved, knowing it was approved in, I believe, November of 2017. But what we also need to do is to be able to adapt as changes become necessary, to bring forward the kind of grandiose visions that I'd like to see happen for New Westminster would be fantastic, because I really want New Westminster to be the place to be. I would like to see, similar to what Richmond Night Market has, and then we do something like that once a year, close down Columbia Street or Front Street. Just past week, we closed down 6th Street, bringing these arts events, which are fantastic. And these are the kinds of things that bring people to our city, and it brings the artists out, and it gets everybody going. I see that the engagement process in the art strategy was really good and well done. As I said, I haven't been privy to a lot of these things, partly because as a lawyer, I'm busy doing my legal work, but becoming city council, I'm going to familiarize myself with everything as possible, like the approved art strategy. I just want you to remember one thing taking away from tonight. My website is www.troyhunter.ca. Please visit it. Thank you, and I ask for your vote.
The musical chairs going on there. Well, thank you. Some comments made here are not quite accurate, so I just want to clarify some of this stuff. I've been on council since '96. I have never seen a more open council. We've just won a national award for open government, national award of an organization that monitors federal, provincial, and civic governments. We won first place. We are open. All our art policies aren't made in a vacuum. I don't recall any of our policies made in a vacuum. We have an arts commission that we listen to, that we engage, that we ask you to engage. We have a public art committee that we ask them to engage. We have open dialogue with the community. We have outreach with the community on art issues. We're not in a vacuum here. This is the most open dialogue and discussions of art I've ever had in this term of council. And I'm really proud of that. And I really commend the Council of Trenton and the entire City Council for that. The art strategy to me is something that is always going to be growing. We're engaging in a sister city relationship with the Silvertine First Nation, the Patinko First Nation up in Anaheim Reserve. There's interesting art strategies that'll come out of that, and it'll manifest, and it'll change our art strategy. There needs to be more multicultural engagement. We don't see enough multicultural engagement. We have an incredible multicultural festival that's run on a shoestring by them facilitating public money. So there is so much growth here. It's all good news. It's not bad news, and we have expanded our budgets, and we will continue to work with this community vote Chuck Putmeyer on October 20th. Thank you very much. And Team Coach.
I think that there's actually been some really good improvements in accountability. I want to be held accountable, you know. We spend many hours at this. We're spending public money. I want to hear from people what's going on and what's not, right? I mean, to have an open council, the last thing you ever want to have is politicians who are just going to be defensive about the way things are. Nobody wants that, and in too many communities that's the case. But we have the Arts Commission, which, by the way, has done some tremendous things in the 9 years I've been on council. And just before I was on council, began to incorporate letters and written word into its work. But we have more delegations now about the arts to our city council microphone on Monday nights than we've ever had. And when I tell people in other councils that we have a Monday nights at the microphone, any citizen can show up and talk for 5 minutes about anything you want, they're amazed that we do that. Some of them will just say, I wouldn't do that. But of course we do. Because it's a principle of open government that you hear from everybody and hear what people honestly have to say. And that kind of accountability is being open and having the relationships. We do need some people working at city office. You know, the guy who teaches guitar at Queensborough, he still wants to make his living. And we need people to coordinate those relationships and coordinate the communication. If things aren't coming out from us and not coming in from us, we're just not going to do as good of a job as we possibly could. That's good. It was said tonight that a comment was made about the art strategy. I do want to recognize that there is an existing art strategy. Councillor Bill Harper's not running again tonight, but he did a great job on these issues working with the Arts Commission. In the past, Mary Trinkadu has come and said, let's renew that, let's grow that, let's make something more of it. And I agree with that 100%, and I support the art strategy that she's placed on her.
Thank you, Jane.
So, for the city to remain focused, we're hearing it from just about everybody here. This whole process is about us talking, listening to each other, and of course wanting feedback from everyone else. And being accountable, being focused, is just literally all about people talking to people. There's no economic I'm up here, you're down here, we're all at the same level. And my goal, of course, you know, through this election, of course, I want to be elected. But I want everyone to have my personal cell phone number. It's on the city's website. Call me anytime if you have any questions about anything.
Getting here again, of course, a lot of good things have been said again. I like what Daniel said, I like what Mike said, I like what Patrick said. Being held accountable, being transparent, being open is really what it's all about. It's our civic duty as elected officials to be open, transparent, and working for you. You should have access to everything we have access to. You know, as long as we have a way to measure our success or our failures as we move along and adapt to it, and that's including everybody from the different arts councils and strategies and somebody from the city, and we all work together. That's where it works. This is not a silo thing. It's not you, him, her, them, us. It is everybody, and the city has to play a role in facilitating all that, supporting that, and being humble at the end of the day. And as much as there's been good work by people in council, I truly believe that there has to be a shift in culture at the city in order to be able to be humble and work with our arts groups. And if we can do that, then we're successful. And I can tell you, if I am on council, and I'm elected to council, and working with everybody, I want to have a very cooperative relationship with the people who need it the most, and that's the arts community in this case. Thank you very much.
So just this past weekend, I was sitting down with a local business owner, and what he told me is that he believes that New Westminster is actually too humble about what we do. And he said, we need to brag about what goes on in New Westminster. In the that, for getting out the message. So a lot of what we've been talking about tonight is engagement. And I had the honor of sitting on the Mayor's Public Engagement Task Force. I studied engagement with my master's degree. This is really something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. I've done a lot of projects in this community. And I would like to evolve the way that we do engagement in this community. So I think a lot of what we were talking about earlier on was in the realm of collaboration. So allowing the community to inform the city. And now I think what we're talking about is information, that we need to find better ways to get information into the hands of the community. So I think that things like simplifying the website, I don't see why we're talking about arts. I think we can be creative in the way that we present these goals and metrics. Threw me off. So I think we can be creative about that and presenting that. And I think that we should give a lot of the accountability reporting to the Arts Commission.
Thank you to all our council candidates who've spoken here tonight and shared their views on the questions and the introduction that they've given. Thank you very much. The question, I'll read it one more time, and then we'll begin with Harmon and work our way across. So the question is, how do you ensure that the city remains focused on and accountable to the goals and recommendations of the approved art strategy?
I think bottom line is accountability is a big issue in our community. I don't believe that our city is accountable to the taxpayer in this community, and I think we need to fix it. It's not just in the arts community, it's in every part of our community. I think that there's a tendency to not share, not put out there the goals and objectives on a project-by-project basis. Several years ago, the city of Penticton changed their council, and they started putting every project that they do on the website with a timeline and a budget and a quarterly update so that the taxpayers and the citizens of the city can know exactly where we are and what we're doing in terms of achieving the goals that we established for the community and how we are reaching them. I believe that that's what we as a city really need to do, is to be more in touch with exactly how our government is serving us. That's what I will do if you would like to be mayor in Westminster.
So developing the art strategy is an important first step, but actually implementing it is the even more important step. And I think that's going to be a critical goal for the next years for both the city and the arts community to engage in. Some of the most successful strategies and plans that the city have worked on has had a very clear implementation strategy, and we need to ensure that that is a big part of the art strategy. We have a long history in the city of New Westminster of having advisory committees to council play a big role in providing advice, everything from the environment to childcare to our Arts Commission. And I think the Arts Commission has a really important and critical role to actually work on the implementation of the art strategy. I think it's important to recognize that the art strategy is going to have a number of wonderful initiatives, and we're not going to be able to do them all at once. But it's important that both the city and the arts community can work together, prioritize, and work on the implementation strategy. So I'd like to finish just by thanking the Arts Council for hosting tonight's discussion. I think it was a really enlightening and important discussion to have. And I'd also like to thank all of the candidates that are sitting around the table. When I was leaving to come to the all candidates meeting this evening, my daughter said, "You look really nervous. Are you going to vomit, Dad?" And I think a lot of credit's got to be given to everyone who has stepped up and put it in forward. And we'll finish off with on October 20th, mark your ballot X for Jonathan X. Cote. I haven't said that in 4 years.
Okay, so I think that it's good to see that the policy is getting updated, but I think we need to have that continued conversation with art strategy and policy in a timely fashion and implementing it in a timely fashion. I'm just going to finish. If we work together, we're going to be a winning city, and we need to do that as a team, and communication is key. Thank you for hosting tonight, to the Art Council. Thank you for coming out. I know it's late, and yeah, remember to vote on October 20th. Thank you.
I'd like to express the Arts Council's appreciation to all the candidates for making the time for being here, as well for all of you as the arts community for being here and participating in this event. There's just a few key, I know where you're going to go, but just a couple quick things. September 26th, we have another all candidates meeting here for the school trustees. We've never done this one arts focused before. The other thing to let you know is that there will be an open house for the art strategy in October. Do we have a date for that? We don't have a date yet, but I'll be sure to get the word out. Okay, thank you. We'll be getting the word out about an open house, so you can come and give feedback about that upcoming art strategy. And lastly, please vote on October 20th. You've heard from these candidates, and I think we know a lot more. So thank you all. Oh wait, one last thing. There's a draw for last Monday's movie season's pass. Get out your blue ticket.